Hello, everyone, and thank you and welcome, and thank you for having me here. I am Luke Norman, as introduced. I am the chairman of U.S. Corp. I'm also the co-founder of the company. Excited to talk to you about our little company that could today. We're in very unique, standalone kind of territory, and I think you'll hear, any of you who heard my speech anyway last year, the word unique comes up a lot with this company, and I promise to live up to it. Other than the forward-looking statements, which I think we're all familiar with, today I'm going to be talking to you about our CK gold project, and I am going to touch in on Keystone. I think Keystone is, aside from the irony of its name, a keystone, of course, being the locking rock to an arch or a wall, we will be talking about this project a lot more in the future. So we'll start off with CK, we'll get into Keystone. A storied board we have. Our CEO, George B., has built some of the largest gold mines on the planet, and that is very crucial and critical to this story because it validates all of our efforts to date, and it tells you a wonderful story about a project that could. Okay, unique. I promised it. Here we go. We are NASDAQ listed. We do not have any Canadian interests in terms of our stock listing other than myself, who lives in Canada. The rest of the company, from our CEOs based in Utah to CFO and COO based in Denver, Colorado, and our project located in the States, domiciled in the US, we are US listed. As such, you'll see a common shares outstanding of 16 million shares. That is not a misprint or a typo. You know, you issue shares relative to the exchange you were on. If we were in Canada, we would have 160 million shares out, which would still be extraordinary for where we are in our stage of development. If we were in Australia, that would be 16 billion shares. So thankfully, and we have approximately 30 million US dollars in treasury. That's certainly not going to build the mine I'm telling you about today, but I think you'll see how we're going to pull it off without blowing that share structure up. And look, we're a stingy organization when it comes to issuing our common shares. Why are we stingy? Because we own common shares. We care about it. I'm not here today for the dinners tonight and yesterday, even though they were tremendously good, by the way. What a great little city Quebec is. But it's not here for the trip. We're here for the real trip, which is owning this company. We just came with a definitive feasibility study 6 weeks ago. And just to retroactively take you back now, George B. joined our company in 2020. In 2020, we were a science test. We had, like many of the stories you'll hear here. Thank you, English, such a wonderful language. I'm being ironic, by the way. We have a project that was just in its infancy. It was a resource. It was a greenfields project. And we sat down and we discussed the possibility and probability of turning that into an economically viable solution that could ultimately be permitted, ultimately be mined. This is why we invest in these companies. We entrust our money to hope and instill our trust in management companies to ultimately see these things go through the whole process and be sold. The Holy Grail, either be sold or generate cash flow, obviously become a producer, but we don't want to see these things just play out as science tests. So we are now at this point, an inflection point in the company where we are ready to go. Aside from being shy of the $400 million, the headline you see there, I forget where the laser pointer, there it is. The headline number here, which is our build cost, $400 million. We have $30 million in treasury. Obviously, we have to take care of that little point. But at the end of the day, we have a 1.6 million ounce reserve, a far bigger resource than that. And look, you look at the math on it, works out pretty nifty. If you bring in spot price, it's a heck of a project. Okay, so located in Cheyenne, Wyoming. For those of you who are geographically challenged like I am, the bottom of this map is the Colorado border. If you come up this I-25, hopefully that's close, yep, that is about an hour and 15 from Denver International Airport, where everyone knows how to get there. Major hub. And this is the I-80 corridor running across the map. That will take you from San Francisco all the way through Reno, Nevada, Elko, Nevada, Salt Lake City, and on. Now, why did I bring up those 3 points in particular? Because those are major mining hubs in the US. So logistically, you could not get a better location for a project. We're 20 miles due west of Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a resource hub for employment. They still mine coal in Wyoming. They mine trona. There's uranium. There's all sorts of natural resources. In fact, it's a resource-based state, resource-based community. So enticing people to come and work on our lovely gold mine is not going to be a challenge. And believe it or not, you take the most prolific state in the US for gold mining, Nevada, it's a challenge to get people to go there and work. Here we've got everything you need to entice people to work because we are 20 minutes outside of their bedroom. So we don't have to build man camps. We have a very, very friendly capital pool. The other major thing, again, having the I-80 corridor there, logistically tremendous. We're just right off of some paved roads that come in, and there's an existing project just to our south, which is harvesting a rock just purely as aggregate. So, tremendous location. Very simple method of mining. The 1.6 million ounces we have in reserve is just going to be crushed, ground, and turned into a very fine sand that ultimately will be a concentrate. Concentrates globally now are in massive demand. So a project like ours, very clean concentrate, a lot of individuals interested in financing the build of this project, including, of course, the concentrates off-takers. Wonderful schematic of what this plant will look like in the future. Very small project in terms of your landscape. That's each one of those squares that you can kind of see the outline of a square is 1 square mile. So this is all encapsulated again in a very small project, land footprint area, and it's on state ground in the state of Wyoming. So I mentioned that we had turned this from a science test, a resource, into a fully permitted, shovel-ready project earlier. The reason we could achieve that is we were not on Bureau of Land Management ground. We were not dealing with the federal government. Even with the current administration in the US, it is still very, very, in fact, extremely challenging to get permits to mine. Not because these things are horrible for the environment. In fact, quite the opposite. You're going to see on this project, it's actually an environmental cure for a local park. The problem is same as what we have in Canada. Federal agencies and bureaucracies, just too many of them, pointing too much, getting too involved in the process of all these wonderful opportunities. Outlined on this slide, again, back to our 1.6 million ounce reserve, this is the pit shell for it. Now, I said unique, I'll repeat it again. One unique thing about being on a US exchange is we have to succumb to what's called SK 1300 as opposed to NI 43101. So our regulatory body is different. So we don't get to talk a lot about these extension of the deposit or these extended resources below our reserve. So there's a 1.6 million ounce bankable reserve there. This mineralization doesn't just end at some preordained engineered cap shell. The mineralization continues to depth. We see another 1.2 million ounces plus in the extension of the reserve, in the resources, about 600,000 of which are already measured and indicated. Again, they don't count under SK 1300, but they count to me. We also have some lateral extension to the deposit. So this thing's a lot bigger than and the breakdown, that's gold equivalents as we refer to it, but it's 1 million ounces of gold and about 260 million pounds of copper. So just what we need in the world, more gold, more copper. Okay, I've talked to the simple notion of the mining of this project. What I will do is now talk to you really quickly how this is actually an environmentally important and well-supported project. It sits outside of a state park, and you can see here this rendering is what the closure plan looks like right now. That's based on a 10-year mine life, spitting out about 100,000 ounces a year. That's not going to happen in the space of 10 years. This thing will operate for about 19 or 20 years. Is we're sat right next to that. That's Kirkgowrie State Park, and there's 2 reservoirs. Those are man-made reservoirs. They capture snow runoff from the snowy mountains, and that is used for the township's water. Grossly under capacity. So our pit will not be backfilled. It's about, right now under reserve, about 86 acres at surface, 700 foot deep, more than doubles that water capacity there. The retention of the water, obviously vital in the high plains of the USA. More than doubles that water capacity, and ultimately will serve as a long-term solution for saving that park. All right, so our upside, there's a lot of upside. I've talked to you about the resource upside. There's a lot of upside in terms of also recapturing or garnishing more of the ounces which are contained within that deposit. And ultimately, we've got a little bit of work ahead of us in terms of raising the capital to put this into production. The good thing is, as being one of the only permitted, ready-to-go projects in North America, is there's a lot of capital chasing us. So we're not in a bear market situation right now where we're chasing people around for capital. Capital has been offered to us on a daily basis, hence my involvement in this conference right now. Right, so the project, fully permitted, advanced engineering complete. Our waste material, by the way, is a wonderful source of aggregate, proven by Martin Marietta Materials, who are 2 miles to our south and are selling just barren rock into the marketplace for about $20 to $25 a ton. Well, we get a bit of a big income booster there, not factored into the economics at all. Lots of attractive financing options being presented to us right now. Ultimately, the project, water development and storage line, that's what's going to be the our legacy, post-production legacy of the project. And ultimately, we are heading towards construction and production, provided we don't get taken over first. And clearly, we're one of the very few young single ladies at the dance in that regard. Right, Keystone. I promised I would touch on this really briefly. It's important because we are going to try and spin this out before somebody does potentially consume our company. Keystone is the most interesting exploration project I have seen in my 25 plus years in career. It is a standalone domal district that sits next to the biggest gold endowment on the planet now, which is the Cortez complex, owned by Barrick and Nevada Gold Mines ultimately. We have, it's not just location, you can see the McEwen mining project behind us. They don't have the access to this all-important rock package that we have. Sorry, I'm going to back up one. 20 square miles of standalone domal district, which has the exact same rock packages and geology as our neighbor monster Cortez. So there's Cortez with the wind band unit, wind band 5, that is the lower plate carbonate host rock that has now born somewhere in the realm of 80 million plus ounces and growing. And here we are, tested, proven with some scout drilling back in 2018, 2019, when no one cared. We showed 1,800 plus foot swaths of heavily altered wind band, relatively shallow. In fact, when I say relatively shallow, the alteration that we see is exposed right at surface. We have exposed upper plate rocks, which is proof of strength of system, exactly what you want to see. So keep an eye out for this. It is a future spin out, and thank you very much for listening to me today.